Hey everybody, this is Scott from Lawrence Hypnotherapy, and welcome back to day 10 of the Time Management Challenge. And so today, because it's the last day, I just wanted to get into some really fun, juicy stuff about the brain. Because you guys have done so well submitting your central goal, your plan, your coded stuff, and about making decisions, and the importance of why you do need a bigger challenge, but not more busy work. Because sometimes people kind of associate those things as being the same. Being busier is not the same as actually challenging yourself higher. Challenging yourself higher lights you up. Being more busy, sometimes that just uses up your time. And that's why there's that saying called lazy through busy. Because people, they're moving, but they're not doing anything that's literally going to help their future in any way, because they're not making decisions, and then they're not coding their time. So you guys have done so well. Thank you so much for being part of this program. I just want to know, have you seen, or you're aware of the idea, obviously, that people see things in different ways. As you've probably seen on social media, and you've probably seen on the news, like everyone arguing about everything. But the problem with that argument is they literally cannot see the point the same way as the other person. And I want to sort of take you a little bit into how that works, because this acronym we've got called distortions. I don't know if you ever saw this dress, where this one on the left is the original picture. Some people saw it as kind of more like this, so it's kind of like, white with gold or something. Some people saw it more kind of like this, which was kind of like darker, like where some people were calling it blue and black. But there was this big eruption and issue with like people like not seeing the dress the same way another person sees the dress. And instead of them basically saying like, oh, you see it differently, what would happen is that they would try to make the other person wrong. So this has come up a lot recently, sort of in the way people are speaking to each other about politics, about social justice issues, or anything that they want to move forward, or whether it's like, should we be using positive psychology, should we be using neutral psychology? People aren't listening to each other. They're basically saying, I see it this way, therefore you're wrong. And that's kind of a little bit of human condition that's really coming out at the moment. So again, like with the gender war as well, there's, or the same as like with politics, or the same as with any world issue, or the same as within relationships, or the same as like within business, people see things from their own perspective. And so it's really important to be able to say, it's not that the other person's wrong, is that the other person sees something that I don't see, and I see something that the other person doesn't see. And because of that, we just don't see things the same way. But that doesn't mean that the other person's wrong or stupid or anything like that. But it's just really, really important to basically have this one concept that not everyone thinks like you. So this is also, it's good news when it comes to like your business, because there's this thing that people have, like, we'll get into it, called the Dunning-Kruger effect, and imposter syndrome, where people tend to think that they're not good enough to be an expert. They need to do the next course and the next course. They need to do first hypnotherapy, then maybe NLP, then a psych degree, and then they need to do the train the trainer, then the train the trainer of the trainer course, then they need to do the speaker's course, all before they see the first customer. You basically just need to start bringing in business. All the admin stuff, all the government stuff, all the tax stuff, all the regulation stuff, all of that can kind of be delayed, not forever, but it can be delayed. The first thing you need to do is raise your, like when they say high seas raise all sails, you need to raise how much money you have. You need to basically put out an offer. Even if you think you're not good enough, even if you think that no one would listen to you, even if you think that what you've got to say is just common sense, I guarantee you that there's someone out there who doesn't know what you know. There's someone out there who is suffering because they haven't met you yet. And they're waiting for you, they need you, and they want to give you money. So it's really important for you to put out your program. So that's why I liked this dress, like, is this sort of method of basically, I don't know if you saw it like when it came out, but people see things in different ways. And then there's this YouTube video, I'll just put it on, because it's again, it's about perspective.
hear Yanny,
Laurel, Laurel,
or Laurel?
Laurel, Laurel.
A recent Twitter poll found that 47% of people hear Yanny, while 53% hear Laurel. Clearly, this has created an internet argument that is dividing the nation. So, what is the science behind the madness? One of the first aspects is priming. If you were to play this clip without providing the option of Yanny or Laurel, you may have heard neither of these words, but by reading them, you're primed to hear one or the other. Secondly, when you speak, you are producing sound waves, which propagate through the air. This is a visual depiction of the sound waves of the original Yanny/Laurel recording, created by Brad Story, a professor of speech, language, and hearing. Here is the depiction of him saying Laurel. You can see that the acoustic features are very similar. Here is a depiction of him saying Yanny. The acoustic features are also similar. So the words Yanny and Laurel audibly are more similar than you might think. Whether you're listening on a laptop, phone, or headphones will influence what you hear based on sound quality. But what if you are listening through the same device, but you hear different things with someone next to you? It might have to do with the age of your ears. The sounds in Yanny play at a higher frequency than the sounds in Laurel. As we age, our ears are less able to hear higher frequencies, so if you are hearing Yanny, you might have younger ears. Luckily, with the help of the internet, we can hear both. Brilliant Twitter user at XXV posted audio of the pitch brought both down and up. When you listen to it brought down 30%, you will hear Yanny.
Yanny. Yanny.
But when you listen to it with the pitch brought up 30%, you will likely hear Laurel.
Laurel. Laurel.
Your brain has so much stimulus at all times that it uses existing information and precise neurological pathways to focus its attention. This is why at a loud party you can listen to your friend beside you, but pop your attention into another convo if need be. Similarly, your brain is unconsciously choosing which frequencies in the recording to pay attention to. So, what is the final answer? If you heard Laurel, you are correct. The original recording is saying Laurel, but with higher frequencies overlaid, creating ambiguity.
Love learning about amazing and interesting things in the world? We actually just started a brand new podcast called Side Note, where we explore the things that are stumping us or making us curious in life, and then insert all the mind-blowing science behind it. We'd love for you to check it out on iTunes or whichever podcast app you use. Your support means a ton to us as we slowly journey into exploring more science in a new medium. Again, it's called Side Note, and it's brand new, so we're excited to know what you think. We'll leave some links below. And subscribe for more weekly science videos every Thursday.
Alright. So that was the Yanny versus Laurel thing. So again, who's right? If someone heard Yanny, are they right? If someone heard Laurel, are they right? Or with the dress, what colour is it? Are they right? Or if somebody sees a political issue one way, are they right? People are getting different streams of information and they can see it through their own perspective. One story that I was listening to, which was interesting, just a fictional story, just to try to illustrate a point, is that there's this church, and there's a stained glass window, and so the stained glass window has all of these different bits of glass that are different colours, and so two bees fly up to the window, and one of them looks through the green piece of glass, and the other one looks through the red piece of glass, and one of them says, well, the inside of the church is green. They're like, no, it's not. It's red. Because like the other one could see only through the red piece of glass. So they're both being honest about what they can see. And that's the thing, is like this distortions acronym that we've put together for you. I'll just take you through it. So the first letter stands for D, the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, you can look it up for like deeper details, or like to go to Wikipedia, or like whatever you want to do. But the Dunning-Kruger effect basically means that no matter how much information you have, how much or how little, you tend to sort of get this idea that that's the average amount that everybody else has. So if people have very low levels of information, as in they don't have much information, they tend to be like highly confident about how much information they have. And the more people know, sometimes then the more they doubt themselves. And it's a really weird effect. I think Dunning-Kruger was named after Dunning and Kruger. But it's basically an effect that they found, which is that if you know a lot, you tend to think that everything that you know is common sense. But it's not true. There are so many people out there that instead of seeing them as stupid, or instead of just seeing them as like insufficient in some way, basically just think about like that they haven't had your life experience. They don't know what you know. If you can tie your shoelaces together, then you're miles ahead of someone else who can't. So whatever you know could be the answer to somebody else's pain. So when you're selling yourself as an expert or a therapist, whatever you know could be the answer to someone else's pain. So this is where the what I call it, the not identity bias, but this one, the imposter syndrome. When people have imposter syndrome, it's when they tend to feel that they're not good enough, as in they're going to get caught out as being not a real expert. And it's just a feeling, it's not a fact. It's just that if ever you feel that you're not good enough to be an expert for someone, it just means that you're just not feeling it. And so you are good enough. Sometimes what you just need to do is just go out and have a go. And then notice the response you get from people, or when people start praising you, going, wow, you're so good. Like the first time I coached somebody in something and they've gone, wow, this is amazing. I'm like, is it? I just thought everybody knew this. But not everybody knows what you know. The second one, identity bias. This one's to do with like groupthink. Like that whatever your group thinks often tends to be the way that you think as well. Because you have an effect on them, they have an effect on you. And you all tend to sort of like agree on a reality pattern. And again, it's like a way that we tend to see the world incorrectly. Like if you've seen kind of that model of generalizations, deletions, and distortions, it's the three ways that people get things wrong. So it's like there's generalizations, like when somebody says, everybody hates me. Like, everybody? There's 7.5 billion people. Like, you must be famous. Like, there's no one in the world that everybody in the world has heard of. Because all it takes is for one person in the world to have not heard of them. Even if there's like a baby that just hasn't watched TV yet. It only takes one person for that person not to be known by everybody. So that's a generalization. Generalizations can be useful, or they can be devastating depending on how they're used. And so a generalization can be good for confidence, because you can say, well, I know how to open door handles, so I just assume that the next door handle I come to, even if it's different, I just think that I'll be able to open that one too. And so that's kind of like generalizing, because that next door handle might be completely different. So identity bias. How do you see yourself? What group do you associate with? You know, are you left wing? Are you right wing? Are you kind of more spiritual? Are you more kind of religious? Are you more kind of atheist, or more sciencey, or whatever you are? It tends to put a filter between you and what's in front of you, because instead of just like kind of just seeing what's there, which almost like none of us can really do, all we can do is see things through our filters anyway, and we in a way have to accept that everything we see is filtered through our own bias. The next one, shiny object syndrome. So this is one that I talk to almost every student about, because let's say somebody goes to a seminar and they pick up a hot tip. They're not working on their core, like, you know, get leads, build trust, make sales, deliver product, those 4 things. They're going, oh, I've heard that, like, you know, Snapchat's good. That's like if somebody goes to like a weight loss seminar and they go, I hear coconut water's good. You're like, but that's not the entire strategy. But it's just funny how like shiny object is like, what's new? Show me something new. Show me something shiny. So then after they've come home from this seminar and they've gone, oh, maybe Snapchat's good, or maybe LinkedIn's good. And then they go to the next seminar and they get another hot tip, and they don't action that one either. And then they go to another seminar and they drop the previous hot tips they've had. So they have no plan. Shiny object syndrome is basically having no plan. 2 columns. This is a style of thinking where there are no grey areas. Sometimes, in some situations, it can be a dangerous way of thinking, especially when it comes to somebody who is suicidal, because it's either life is worth living or it's not. Instead of going, you know what, like 20% of life really sometimes just sucks, but 80% of it is great. Can you kind of let that 80% of life that's great be enough, without you sort of going, my life is perfect or else? In one of Anthony Robbins' books, like where he was talking about this richest man in Germany, he had something like $12 billion in the bank, he was the richest, and then he invested in Mercedes at the wrong time, and then ended up with then only $9 billion in the bank. So he had this beautiful wife that he was in love with, and he had these children and $9 billion. I'm like, yeah, I think that I would be able to live on $9 billion. I'd scrape by on $9 billion. But his identity was kind of in two columns. It's either I am richest man in Germany, or life's not worth living. So then he jumped in front of a train and killed himself. So just like really thinking about that, this guy that he actually killed himself because he wasn't the richest man in Germany, because he sees life in two columns. Like, it's either richest man in Germany or nothing. And that's where the danger of two columns comes in, or the same as like, you're with me or you're against me, which means that you're not allowed to have like a third point of view or a fourth point of view. That we need to sometimes see life in two columns, like as in like when it comes to getting your act together, it's either you get back up again or you just let your whole life kind of disappear on you. So sometimes two columns is a really useful tool, but sometimes it's dangerous. And it's really important to know the difference between when you should use the two columns form of thinking, as in like you book the venue and you do the event, or you don't. That's a two column style of thinking. But another one, it's like that either I'm going to ask that person out, and if that person says no, then I'm going to be single forever. Oh, well, that's another two column style of thinking. It's like this or that. Well, that particular issue can have more shades of grey. And so that's why, if you want to know, like, how do you tell when two columns is a good style of thinking, and how do you tell when it's not? When should you be certain? When should you be flexible? I've actually got a plan that works really, really well for this kind of thinking. So, you know, like that when, in the 60s, like when they went to the moon, if you saw that whole thing, like with, you know, what was it, Apollo 11, I can't remember. So it's like that they went to the moon, and the speech that was given by the president was that we choose to do these things and other things not because they are easy, but because they are difficult. Their goal was to go to the moon, but there were some issues along the way. The metals that they were using on the craft, they weren't strong enough to withstand the pressures of kind of like the rocket and the takeoff. They needed to learn, like they needed to work some things out. They needed to work out how they're going to write. They needed to work out how the astronauts are going to eat. A lot of things went wrong, but they were completely inflexible on their goal, which is they're going to go to the moon. But they were completely flexible on how. So, I don't know if you heard these two sayings, but like, say, the first one is the Russian proverb, a man who chases two rabbits catches neither. And so the idea with that is to say that you need to focus on one thing. But another saying, which sounds just as true, is that if you keep all of your eggs in one basket, you drop them and then you lose the whole lot. So it's good to diversify, keep your eggs in different baskets. So one kind of says, only focus on one thing, the other says kind of focus on lots. And they both sound correct, so then which one's correct? So this is why I've got a plan for this that actually works really well for you. Have one goal and be inflexible on it. That's your moon dream. That's your one rabbit. So if you're going to say, I'm going to run one event, or I'm going to build one clinic for one niche, and build one program to help one style of person, do that. Pick your big decision goal. Where you need to diversify, where you need to be flexible, is along the pathways that get you to your goal. So never ever sacrifice your goal, but do sacrifice some of the pathways that get you there in exchange for other pathways that will get you there. Because we can't always be right on how we get there, but we can be persistent. So if you have 10 methods to get there and you're working one, if it falls over, then you've got another 9. The same as, like, say you've got a friend whose house you're driving to. Oh, alright. So you've got a friend whose house that you're driving to, and there's a detour on the road, so that road's blocked. So you go around, and you still eventually get to the friend's house, because you know your destination. So that's where the two columns of thinking is. Like, it's kind of going, I go to my friend's house or nothing. So you're like, great, I'll go to my friend's house. However, if you didn't have a destination, then as soon as you get to like a detour, you kind of go, this is all too hard, I'm going home. So you need to have a very strong focus on the destination, the outcome you want, but be flexible on how you get there. So let's say like you were someone who said like, I don't like technology, or I don't like computers, or I don't like selling, or I don't like that. Be flexible on those, because you might find that you like them, but never be flexible on your dream. So set your destination. Opinion. So basically, again, because this whole thing's an acronym for distortions. Opinion is basically without evidence. So it's when someone says like, oh, I think that, and then whatever they think, you're like, where did that thought come from? I don't know, it just popped into my head. Like, I had a student once who basically said, oh, I don't think that my clients will be coming from the internet. I'm like, why is that? You think the internet hasn't caught on yet? No one's on the internet or something? Or that perhaps, like, you know, she had a bad experience with the internet once because she tried to set up an ad and it didn't work. So opinions, sometimes they're there actually to protect us from pain, but sometimes those opinions are actually causing more pain because they shut off options. Reality filter. So kind of, again, like how that we don't see reality for what it is. For starters, every species has different senses. So like whether it's like sonar that the bats have, or whether it's kind of like whatever dolphins have, like when they have that almost that echo response kind of radar thing happening, or we have, you know, picture, sound, feeling, taste and smell. Other species have more or less senses. So to begin with, we can only see frequencies of energy that come at particular sizes, or that are particularly close enough to us. We can't see the whole universe because it's like too big. We can't see anything that's too small. We can see light frequencies between, you know, infrared and ultraviolet. We can basically only hear things between particular frequencies, the same as that Yanni and Laurel thing. So the reality filter to begin with is that we can only pick up information that's local. The next thing we do is we use our generalizations, deletions, and distortions, our past experiences of being hurt or being in love or being let down or something, and then we make that mean something on top of what's actually there. It's like that there's this book that where the author says the door was red, and then the school teacher says, well, what the author meant by the door was red was it was about like whether it's Soviet Russia, or whether it's about communism, or it was about kind of the bloodshed at the time, and it was a really deep and meaningful like essay about like what the author meant. Then the author comes out and says, well, actually what I meant by the door was red is that the door was red. That's it. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. And so that we can't really see things for how they are. We see them for our filters. And so the same as like when it comes to sales, whatever story you've got in your head is more likely to come true than anything else. So like what we found is that like we make more money when we're offering things, and if we go like, oh, not much money came through, it's like, well, when's the last time you produced a product and sold something? Oh, was that important? Like, yes, that's important. You have to make a decision on what you want. Time fallacy. So it's just like so interesting how like nobody cares so much like emotionally anywhere past 3 months in the future or 3 months in the past. All of our emotions, like even our survival instinct doesn't really care about it. It's like that if a tiger was going to come to your house in the next 3 seconds, you'd give it your full attention. But if that same tiger was going to come to your house in 6 years, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's bad, but you know, I'm kind of a busy person. Or that people sort of always think that, like when they're setting up habits, I'll do it later. And I'm like, no, you can't do this later. Just don't worry about it. Like if you're not going to like do this business, then don't do it. If you're not going to make a decision today, then you're not going to make a decision tomorrow. You'll never make one. Just go get a job. Because what we do is we build habits. Like that diet starts Monday, or one day I'll write the book, or that, you know what, I've been pretty busy in the last 6 months. It's like, but the 6 months before that you were busy, the 6 months before that you were busy, in 6 months you'll be busy. You're like, oh, but it's a bad time right now to live my dream. What, like while you're alive? So it's like that, interesting the way people see things, that in 6 months it's going to be, you know, a bad time to do this. In 6 years it's going to be a bad time to do this. It's always going to be a bad time to do it, because there's always going to be stuff that pops up in your life. You need to do it now. Like whatever you want to do in your life, just do what you want to do in your life. Because if you don't make that big decision to do what you want to do in your life, it's actually never going to happen. So it's the time thing about like I've got time. People are living as if they're immortal. You have to use your time to live the life you want to live. I don't know if we get a second one or not. That's up to you to decide. But we know that like we tend to all agree, no matter what your beliefs are, that this time is precious and that it's the last time we'll be at least here in this way or whatever it is. Like no matter what your beliefs are, that this is it for this. Whatever comes next or doesn't come next, who knows? But this is it for this. You need to use this. Inert syndrome. So, people who do nothing, it's kind of like that people feel that procrastination is to not make a decision. Well, actually, procrastination is a decision to not do the things that you want to do. Procrastination absolutely is committing to a decision. Like the word decide, like the same as like that with these other words that end on side. Homicide, suicide, genocide, it's the death of something. The word decide is the death of all other options. When you decide, you've actually killed every other pathway and you've said, this is my goal, this is what I'm having. So the same as when someone procrastinates, they've actually decided and they've killed off their dreams. So don't be inert. Make a decision and do what you want to do with your life. Then there's the optimism bias and the negativity bias. They both exist. Both of them, like the optimist is basically, the issue with them is that they start trying to make life better without measuring how it is. And the problem with the negativity bias is that they might measure life for how it is, but they have no vision to make it better. So it's not that these two things are bad, it's that they're bad if you don't use them both. And the way to do it is start with realism and say, well, this is how things are, and then move to vision and say, this is how I'd like things to be. It's like that if you don't have, well, almost the negativity or something, if you don't have the reality thing, like where you're actually looking at how life is now, it's like you've got this steering wheel in your car and you've got these pedals. So you've got all this control, but imagine that every window is like covered in mud. So no vision will help you. So no amount of power will help you if you can't see through the windscreen, because you don't measure, like you don't know where you are. So you've got to be able to look at your current situation and say, is my money actually realistically where I want it to be? No, well then you need to make a decision. Is my health, is my fun, are the areas of my life where they want it to be? Like, no, okay, good, thank you for measuring it. Now let's get to the optimist part and say, well, where would you like them to be? And then just start making decisions and strategies on the gap. Finally, sunk cost bias. So this is where like somebody makes a mistake for so long that they cling to the mistake. The same thing happens with cigarettes, where somebody goes, I'm going to quit smoking, but I've only just bought a pack and it's $40. So I can't throw out that $40 of cigarettes because it's a sunk cost. But you don't get reimbursed for smoking. So like what happens is that if you don't throw the packet out now, then it's not just $40 that you're down, it's the next packet and the next packet after that. So if you don't quit right now smoking, it's going to cost you like 5 to 10 grand a year. So sunk cost, the same as like when somebody's been working on a bad web page. Let's say they've been using Wix or Squarespace or something, and those programs, they're, you get what you pay for. Or they've got this own strategy. They're like, oh, I'm going to do it myself. You're like, all right, well, how long have you been trying to do it yourself for? Oh, 6 years. Oh, okay. Are you going to spend the next 6 years doing it yourself? Because this sunk cost, they've invested so much energy in their old plan that they can't let go of it for something that works. The only thing you should really do is find someone who it's already working for and get them to help you. Because then you know that they know how to do it. So thank you so much for being a part of this program. Just for fun, I'm going to zoom out. This program is called Prezi, so if you want to see kind of like what I've been doing, I'm just going to zoom out. Check this out. This is all of those different days. Like you can see that they're all different sizes because you can zoom in and out. That's that story I talked about like with my friend. So this program that I was talking to you about, I'm just going to zoom it into it here. So this is one of our one of our challenges. Like this time challenge is one of the modules of this. Turn your finished funnel into a six-figure asset. It's a program that we've got. It's just the $350 deposit, and then the $100 a week after that for 30 weeks. We coach you for a year. We help you to make a six-figure asset. It's something that I'd really like you to consider doing, because as cheap as just getting over that $350 bump, it's something we're going to be selling for $7K soon. We're going to be putting that offer out to the market. But for you guys, the $350 deposit and then the $100 a week, $105 a week, for 30 weeks. It's something that will really help you to save time, because you're doing the group stuff. It'll help you with your income, and we help you with your frameworks. We help you with the marketing. We help you with your students. We help you with anything. You can ask us questions. We coach you through, and we make sure that you get over the line. And so if you want, just basically let us know. Just say, I want to see your six-figure asset program, and we'll send you the link that has the ad that shows you what the modules are. And thanks again so much for being a part of this program, and we'll talk to you soon.